Conor McGregor vs. Nate Diaz, 2-1 fight, the rematch. It was a crisp August evening in 2016, a time when the MMA world was absolutely on fire. In one corner of the octagon stood Conor McGregor, the brash, charismatic Irishman who had taken the UFC by storm. In the opposite corner, there was Nate Diaz, the Stockton bad boy, brimming with confidence, ready to face his rival once more. The world was on edge. The rivalry was at a boiling point, and UFC 202 was about to become one of the most legendary events in mixed martial arts history. The setup: first blood to Diaz. It had all started earlier that year. March 5, 2016, UFC 196. Conor McGregor, fresh off an unprecedented ascent to UFC superstardom, was scheduled to fight for a second title this time, in the welterweight division, against the durable and tough Nate Diaz. McGregor was riding high, confident as ever, and expected to steamroll through the unranked Diaz. After all, McGregor was the notorious one, the reigning UFC featherweight champion, the man with the golden left hand, and the king of trash talk. He was unbeatable, or so he thought. But Nate Diaz had other plans. It didn't take long for the tides to turn. McGregor came out swinging, delivering his signature left hands, but Diaz, a master of his own gritty style, ate the punches and kept coming forward. In the second round, the first shockwave hit. Diaz rocked McGregor with a combination, leaving the Irishman staggered and dazed. McGregor, exhausted from the heavy output in the first round, was finding it hard to manage Diaz's relentless pace. Nate, the natural welterweight, kept pressing forward, staying in McGregor's face and delivering a constant barrage of punches. And then, like a scene from a classic underdog story, Diaz secured a submission, locking in a rear naked choke. McGregor had no escape. The submission came out of nowhere. McGregor tapped out. Diaz had done the impossible. He had not only defeated the UFC's rising star, but did so in a dominant, definitive manner. The MMA world was shocked. The storylines were already being written, and the hype train was rolling full speed toward a rematch. The build-up: McGregor's need for redemption. The loss to Nate Diaz at UFC 196 stung McGregor deeply. His aura of invincibility had been shattered, his ego bruised, and his fans now, in disbelief, were questioning everything. Conor McGregor wasn't one to shy away from failure, but this was different. He needed redemption. He demanded a rematch. And so, UFC 202 was born. McGregor, the master of the mind games, was relentless in the build-up to the fight. The promotional videos, the face-offs, and the war of words, everything McGregor did, he did to remind Nate Diaz and the world that he wasn't just any fighter. He was a champion, and champions never back down. The trash talk reached new heights, with McGregor calling Diaz a burger flipper and making numerous taunts about his opponent's lack of ability to fight in a championship setting. Diaz wasn't one to take it lightly, and the back and forth escalated, making their rivalry one of the most heated in UFC history. But there was more to it than just words. McGregor was coming off a humbling experience. For the first time, someone had exposed cracks in his armor. He was coming into this fight with everything on the line: his pride, his reputation, and his claim to being the king of the UFC. His camp made it clear he would not lose again. On the other side of the fence stood Nate Diaz, the man who had become a legend overnight. Diaz had come into UFC 196 as a last-minute replacement for Rafael dos Anjos, and had proved that he could not only take McGregor's best shots, but also dish out punishment in return. Diaz, with his calm, almost aloof demeanor, was determined to show the world that his win was no fluke. He wasn't going to be intimidated by McGregor's antics. Diaz wasn't just a fighter. He was an institution in his own right, an embodiment of Stockton's gritty, unapologetic spirit. The fight, 5 rounds of fury. The night of UFC 202 arrived, and the tension in the arena was palpable. As the fighters made their entrances, fans were split down the middle, some chanting McGregor's name, others screaming for Diaz. The energy was electric. As the bell rang, McGregor came out firing. He wasn't the same McGregor from UFC 196. This was a more measured, more focused version of the Notorious. He was still the same dynamic striker, but his approach was different. He wasn't going to gas out this time. McGregor's strategy was clear. Keep his distance, move his feet, and pick Diaz apart with his fast, clean punches. He found success in the early rounds, using his superior footwork and speed to land a variety of strikes on Diaz, keeping the veteran at bay. McGregor controlled the first 3 rounds, landing combinations, staying on the outside, and proving that he was learning from his mistakes. But Nate Diaz, ever the savvy veteran, didn't go down easily. He was relentless, marching forward despite the punches coming his way. Diaz's chin was made of granite, and every time McGregor thought he had him hurt, Diaz would bounce back, taunting, grinning, and flipping McGregor the bird. Diaz was the embodiment of Stockton's "I don't give AF" attitude, and it was starting to get into McGregor's head. In the 4th round, McGregor began to tire, and Diaz saw an opening. He started pushing forward with more aggression, landing some good shots of his own and pressuring McGregor like never before. Final round was a brutal display of heart and determination. McGregor, exhausted, was struggling to keep the pace. Diaz, on the other hand, was in his element. With every punch he landed, McGregor seemed to slow down. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, not knowing who was going to take it in the end. As the final bell rang, both fighters were bloodied and bruised. McGregor had fought intelligently, landing the cleaner strikes, but Diaz had weathered the storm, landing some big shots in the later rounds. It was a close fight, but McGregor's early dominance in the first 3 rounds seemed to give him the edge. The aftermath, controversy, and victory. When the decision was announced, it was a majority decision in favor of Conor McGregor. Crowd erupted in cheers, but there was a sense of tension in the air. Some believed McGregor had done enough, but others thought Diaz had made a strong enough comeback to win. The result was controversial, but McGregor had done it. He had avenged his loss and kept his claim to the throne intact. McGregor's victory was a testament to his ability to adapt. He had learned from his mistakes in the first fight and fought a smarter, more disciplined fight. It wasn't an easy win, but it was a necessary one. McGregor had cemented his legacy as one of the UFC's top stars, while Nate Diaz, although losing, had once again proved that he was no pushover and could hang with the very best. In the post-fight interviews, McGregor was gracious in victory. He gave Diaz credit for being a tough fighter and acknowledged the grueling nature of the fight. But at the same time, McGregor couldn't resist a few jabs, poking fun at Diaz's corner and the overall rivalry. Diaz, ever the laid-back figure, took the loss in stride, but it was clear that he wasn't done with McGregor. He wasn't done with anyone. The legacy of McGregor vs. Diaz. The fight between McGregor and Diaz became one of the most iconic battles in UFC history. The rivalry between the two fighters transcended the octagon and became a cultural phenomenon. The trash talk, the intense build-up, and the incredible fight itself cemented their place in the annals of MMA. For McGregor, it was a chance at redemption. For Diaz, it was a reminder that he was always a force to be reckoned with. While McGregor went on to achieve even greater heights, becoming a two-weight world champion, and Diaz continued to be a beloved figure in the sport, their rivalry remained one of the most talked about in UFC history. The rematch at UFC 202 had everything: heart, drama, controversy, and a thrilling conclusion. It was a fight that would be remembered for years to come, and it proved that in MMA, no matter how great a fighter is, anything can happen inside the octagon. And as for the fans, they were left with the kind of fight that makes you stand on your feet. Fists clenched, screaming in excitement, and talking about it long after the final bell. The McGregor vs. Diaz rematch wasn't just a fight. It was an epic story that would be told for generations.